Alright, what's going on, guys? The Eerie Lord is back. Finally! I technically made a vlog right before this, but it was just more of an update video, which is kind of irrelevant. I don't even remember the last time I made a video for the channel, so how about we check that out for ourselves right now, just because I'm curious. I would like to know. Alright, the last video we made was 3 weeks ago, which was the video that I made with the Walking Dead World on Twitter, where we talked about the Season 11 trailer. And, yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while. It has absolutely been a hot minute. But I am going to... What I'm going to do is review the episodes for Season 11. We're going to review The Walking Dead Season 11. Well, actually, I didn't mention this, but yeah, I'll just be doing reviews for this season. I will not be doing reactions. No. The reactions are done. They were good for a time being. I stopped doing them, and then I brought them back with the Whisper arc. And then everything with the big delay with the pandemic happened. And then I did one more for the finale for Season 10. And then that was about it. So, anyway, let's review Season 11. And I'm actually going to do you guys a bonus. I'm going to review both episodes because I actually got AMC Plus just so I can watch these episodes early. The other reason for that is that I don't have cable and can't, stream it. I was just getting a whole bunch of bootleg streams before when I used to do the reactions and record it. But those are kind of harder to come by these days, for whatever reason. And it's also kind of unreliable, being, frozen. And considering this is the last season, I figured, why not do it? Do it early or whatever. So... we're going to review this Walking Dead Season 11 episode. There's Acheron, and there's Acheron Part 2. So this is the Acheron review episode. So we basically picked up where we left off from the bonus episodes, where I didn't even realize this was mentioned. But apparently, when Negan comes back after his whole soul-searching episode with Here's Negan, Carol mentions that Daryl found a military base where they're going to look for supplies. And that's how the bonus episode for Here's Negan ends. And then, what do you know? The first shot of Season 11 is that badass shot of Daryl with the 2 wings. The freeze frame shot that I observed in my trailer breakdown video where he's overlooking the tanks in that big military base. It's a very cinematic shot. Him and... couple of characters we haven't seen in a while, like Rosita and Lydia, and amongst a bunch of others. They go into this military base and they scavenge supplies, and they're doing it. If you guys have ever seen the movie Recess Schools Out, it's very reminiscent of Recess, where they're they're tying the supplies to rope, and then to using a pulley system to pull to get the supplies up through a sky roof. And all of these dead walker soldiers are just lying on the ground, and they're trying not to make noise to awaken them. Of course, because this is The Walking Dead and there's action, they do awaken them, and they have to take them all out. So basically it's welcome back to The Walking Dead. This big fight scene that happens in this military base, and we're off to the races with The Walking Dead. But then we get the more immediate problems. Basically... The communities aren't doing so hot, and when I say communities, I mean singular, because Alexandria is pretty much the only community that's really around at this point. I don't really know if the Oceanside is doing anything at all. I'm not sure, but we know it's been mentioned a couple times that Hilltop is a lost cause. The war with Alpha completely crippled it. And then the kingdom obviously was abandoned also because of the Whispers. So the Whispers succeeded in toppling 2 communities, the kingdom in Season 9 and the Hilltop in Season 10. So again, the show did an excellent job of making the Whispers formidable. I have praised Angela Kang's work on the Whispers. They were an amazing arc to revive the show after Rick's departure. So, I have to, again, give praise for that. Any chance I get. But, we only have Alexandria, and the walls are pretty like, everything you can think of gone wrong. Now, if you remember, in the season 10 finale, Beta actually brought the Horde through Alexandria, looking for the group before he located them at that big tower station that they were holed up at. So they, I remember there were a couple shots actually where the Whispers, they walk through the vegetable guards, like they just destroy shit, like they just go through and they just try to wreck as much stuff as possible, just being, just causing complete and utter havoc. And the Alexandria is basically in a complete state of disarray. And the objective right now is to find basically food and resources. Now, the question I have is, why is nobody mentioned Eugene or anything that he's doing with his mission? Because there are many members of the group, not Maggie, but there are many members who know that Eugene went to search for the voice that he heard on the radio. And we get a bunch of scenes at the Commonwealth, well, the holding station of the Commonwealth, but I'll get to that in a moment. That'll be for the second half of this. I'll deal with the Commonwealth stuff in the second half, but basically I'm wondering why no one's mentioned this, because they're talking about food and supplies. Maggie's talking about she was at this place Meridian, where she was with Georgie's group, but they were forced to abandon it when these guys called the Reapers attacked. And I guess, long story short, the Reapers have followed Maggie to the Virginia Alexandria area, so they're now a threat. And they basically need food and supplies, and they need to get to this supply depot. Now, you guys can correct me here, but I'm a little fuzzy on like why, like they end up going, and there's a whole bunch of images that I reviewed, I think 1 or 2 vlogs back, but they go inside this train station, like this Virginia train station, and a lot of the conflict of Acheron Part 1 and Acheron Part 2, they all happen in this train station. For a Gage, that stupid teenager kid, takes some of the supplies and runs off. The group gets separated. Daryl gets separated from the group. Dog runs away briefly. I'm abridging a lot of the stuff that happens underground. One main thing I guess I can mention is that now that Maggie's back, there's a lot of tension between her and Negan. So there's a lot of jawing back and forth. Negan tries to speak up, but nobody likes him. Despite what he did in taking out Alpha, nobody really likes him because they still remember what he did as the leader of the Saviors. So Maggie, there's a scene where Negan just calls it because Negan being Negan's just like, yeah, like Maggie's probably gonna try and take me out or something, and I don't really appreciate that. And Maggie basically says to him like, hey, I could, like, don't stop pushing me around. And there's definitely a darkness to Maggie that I'm questioning a little bit. This is for Acheron Part 2. So if you guys haven't seen the episode that's available for AMC Plus, this is a little bit of spoilers, but Maggie has this speech when they're stuck in the train car and or the subway car, I should say, and she's talking about her and Herschel Jr. This old guy tries to put chloroform over her face to like capture her, but she figures it out. And they go to this house where there's a lot of fucked up shit, like all these guys, like armless, legless people. This guy was basically impregnating people and just leaving these people just like, treating these people like animals. It's something out of the movie. If you guys have ever read the book, The Road, very good book, I suggest. I actually read it over the course of the quarantine. I was just kind of going through books, and so The Road, it's one of the quintessential, I'd say at this point, apocalypse books, and it's not even a book that really dives into what caused it or what happened. I mean, it's implied it's a nuclear war, but basically there is a scene in The Road where the main character, they find a house that has like all these disheveled people that are just in squalor and are being treated just, you know, and in that book it's different because all the meat has run out, so it's implied that they're being herded for cannibalism. Now, the cannibal plot has already been covered with Terminus back in season 5, so we've certainly gone down that road in The Walking Dead already. So she's telling this story, and there's just a lot of darkness in her tone. Like, she just and it's right after, I guess I should say, and it's again another spoiler for the second half, but Gage ends up getting trapped in a neighboring train car. They can't get the door open. There's a stream of walkers behind him, and they end up just making they basically just hedge their bets. They're like, yeah, I don't know if we'll be able to take out all those walkers, so they just leave him to get eaten by the walkers. And there's a darkness to that they just kind of sacrifice the guy, a teenager no less. And then, as if to justify it, Maggie has this speech that she talks about with this old guy in his crazy house of horrors, and it's almost basically to say, like, hey, like, I'm like there's this darkness that's like, you know, she's like, I see the world and it's so dark out there, and, you know, like, it's this dark tone. Like, there's no hope. I mean, despite the fact that she went with Georgie to, you know, to find that hope, she's just like, you know, it's just this downtrodden, like, there's no hope. It's a different attitude I expected Maggie to have, and that, coupled with her completely standoffish, look, you know, a look that could kill that she's giving Negan throughout these 2 episodes of Acheron Part 1 and 2. It's, I don't know, I'm getting weird vibes from Maggie. I'm not sure how to feel about it. Like, it's, yeah, I'm not sure really where they're trying to take her character, to be quite honest, because I don't know if there's some sort of redemption understanding that's going to happen between her and Negan. I don't know if they're saving her for some sort of government role if she makes it to the Commonwealth eventually. Like, I don't really know, like, what the endgame for her character is, because it seems to me that a lot of her endeavors are wrapped up with, you know, these Reapers that followed her, and there's this, like, you know, she had to run from her hometown in Meridian that she set up with Georgie, and then she comes back to Alexandria and the whole place is in complete disarray. And so, you know, at the end of, because we get a different tone at the end of season 10. If you remember, it was basically an SOS that they sent to her because of the Whisperer conflict. And there's that scene where Gabriel has the standoff in the season 10 finale, and then Maggie and her scythe guy with those 2 scythes and the mask come in and take care of them and kind of, you know, come to the rescue as we all predicted she would. And so we got this very heroic vibe from her in the season 10 finale, and now that's shifted to just this brooding, you know, melancholy woman she just doesn't seem to have a whole lot of hope, you know, despite having a son and, you know, trying to do her best to revive Alexandria. Like, there's not a lot. Like, I'm just kind of confused as to what they're doing with her character. If you guys have any insight, let me know. But it was just kind of a turnoff a couple of times in the episode, and I just was like, okay, Maggie's finally back after, you know, not being really in season 9 or 10 after her big hiatus. But, like, I'm almost, like, not missing her character. Like, you know, the stuff with Negan's kind of intriguing because, you know, that's something that's been a plot point all the way since, you know, Rick spared him and, you know, Negan killed Glenn. So, you know, there's that loose end that we still need to kind of find the resolution to, but, you know, I'm not feeling it as much, you know? Like, there's just kind of, like, this melancholy nagginess where I don't know where necessarily it's coming from. losing her home to the Reapers could be one thing. It's not like I don't understand it. It's just more the show's decision to go this route with her character. And I'm not expecting her to be all cheery and stuff, but like there's just like this again, like the brooding anger, with her, and we saw it at the end of Here's Negan when Negan returns, and it's just like every shot of her just shows her like very angry and frustrated. And I'm not sure why that, like, so many scenes with her depict her like this. And that's the thing, like, if there were other scenes that depicted her in a different way, like, I'd be okay, but they're not. And so, we constantly get this Maggie, and it's kind of frustrating. So, that's one big takeaway I had from these first two premiere episodes. Other takeaways, I guess we can jump to the Commonwealth stuff. That's one thing that carries through the episode, I'd say. I will say I would not have liked these episodes at all if it was just the train car stuff. If it was just them in the freaking sewers, bumming around, I'm not really sure. And again, it was unclear what they were even getting from these stupid sewers. Like, I think it was insinuated that it was a shortcut, and because Negan lived in the area in Virginia, like, he was trying to offer them a shortcut to get to some depot or something. But, like, when is it safe to go in confined underground spaces with the fucking walkers? Unless they're trying to avoid these Reapers at night. I didn't, it's just a little confusing. But the fact that we do get the Commonwealth does give us, a little meat on the bone of this episode, because tone-wise, it's completely different. You have these people in suits and ties who are interviewing Eugene, Ezekiel, Yumiko, and Princess. And it's very, very interesting because, first of all, they ask them, like, all sorts of personal questions. Like, because I think the interesting thing about it is that it's all, like, questions that are grounded in a world that hasn't existed in so long. Because, again, with the 6-year time jump, it's been 7.5, almost 8 years since this apocalypse started. So, the fact that you can get old vibes at this point, 11 season in, it just feels weird, but it feels exciting too, because this is a society it's got rules and regulations unlike anything we've ever seen. We've seen established systems of order and trade throughout the series, but like, this is beyond Alexandria, beyond the kingdom. It's just like on another freaking level. So, you have these two kind of almost lawyer people who are asking all these questions, knowing some stuff. And again, I don't want to throw too much of my comic knowledge in here, but knowing some stuff from the comics about the Commonwealth, they have a super bureaucratic system where they're really trying to place people in jobs that were similar to what they had before. So knowing their occupations is important. And there's a lot of, there's intrigue with it. There's intrigue, like what's going on. Like they play back and forth between, are these bad guys? They've got some good to them. Like, it seems like they're, what's processing? They keep talking about you're going to be put into initiation and processing. There's all these scary concepts that keep getting thrown out there, and you're left to wonder what all of this really means. And then we get a few scenes with a very notable comic character, Mercer. He's basically the guy in the big red suit, which is distinct. I have to imagine that like signifies rank of general or something, because everyone else has white and he has red. I know, obviously, the comics, this is an homage to his uniform from the comics, because as we know, there's there's that straight from comic to show adaptation. And we have a few scenes. There's one scene where Ezekiel stands up to him. I'd say his more significant scene comes in part 2, where Eugene is freaking out. Like, it was kind of funny because, like, you almost feel crazy with Eugene, because all of a sudden Eugene's alone, and, like, the soldiers are kind of fucking with him, like, oh, like, none of your friends went through here, like, just kind of, like, really psychologically manipulating them. And there's two things that they won't admit, and Mercer asks, he says, where is your settlement? And how did you, like, why were you at the rail yard in the first place? And then Eugene, it's funny because Eugene doesn't answer the first question, and Mercer just lets it slide. I imagine this is going to come up in a bigger way, like where Alexandria is, because, and they adapt this in the comics, as soon as they find out the Commonwealth marches on them, on Alexandria, they don't take it over, they just, I guess, investigate. And again, it's very different in the comics because you have, Alexandria is in a fine state, the hilltop is still alive, the kingdom is still alive. The sanctuary is still alive. Again, like, this is all in the comics at this time, where you have all of these thriving communities that still exist even after the Whisperers. And so there's a lot of observation from the Commonwealth. Like, Pamela Milton of the Commonwealth actually goes to the sanctuary and talks to the new savior leaders who are there. And I imagine she'll come to Alexandria at some point. Like, that's my guess. Like, the Commonwealth will go to Alexandria, and that's how the remaining cast is going to learn about this group. But it's, like I said, yeah, they're gonna save that plot point for later. But then, yeah, Eugene goes on this, like, long tangent about him and Stephanie, and it's kind of funny. He's like, I've always been a virgin. I've do believe I've observed the act many times. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, it's just Eugene goofiness, this big monologue that just goes on. And then we actually do see Stephanie at the end of part 2, which is pretty cool. We do see her. She emerges, they're in this, like, really nice, it's interesting because you kind of get tricked at the end of the episode because Eugene has a bag over his head and he's thrown in a train car. But this train car is really nice. Like, it has a really nice interior. There's other people in, like, work uniforms in there. So it's a huge juxtaposition from that normal bum train car that they were first thrown in when they were captured at that rail yard. So this shows that, there's the turn, and then Mercer actually announces that they were all initiated to go to the Commonwealth as citizens, I guess. So there's still questions to be answered, a lot, obviously. We haven't met Lance Hornsby or Pamela Milton, which are two very notable characters from the Commonwealth, or Sebastian, Pamela Milton's son, who I don't know if he's even been cast yet. And that was a theory that I had with the Walking Dead world on Twitter, whether they were going to gender swap that. If it was going to be a girl rather than, Sebastian being a guy, because there is that little girl that's in that, the trailer video with Lance Hornsby, so maybe it's just his daughter instead of being Pamela's. So I don't know. I mean, there's different routes they could go. But that's a very broad overview. I didn't obviously mention a few things like, Negan leaving Maggie for dead. And then she outright admits it when she comes up through the train car. Can I just say, it looked like she was dead. It looked like she was really, totally, truly dead when she ran out of ammo and there was like 4 walkers wrestling her. I'm like, it kind of looks like they're eating her right now. Like, I don't know. Like, so yeah, I just was like, what the hell? I don't know. It was just like kind of those, like, it was one of those things where it's like, yeah, I know she's too important of a main character to just get eaten by walkers right here. That would be probably a pretty incredible, shocking thing. But, they had Gage as the one victim of this odd underground expedition, if you'd like to call it that. So those are the 2 episodes. I'm not really sure how to feel about them. I should also mention that episode 2 ends on another... I mean, both episodes end on cliffhangers, but episode 2 ends on a cliffhanger because the Reapers, these mystery villains that are, in between the Commonwealth, they appear, and here they come. So yeah, I guess the reason why I'm kind of confused, These two episodes confused me a bit, and here's why. I'll just say this. It felt like I was still watching some of the... Because now that I saw those 6 bonus episodes, that I knew those bonus episodes were made for filler content. It seems to me like these 2 episodes were sort of bonus episodes too. Not so much the Commonwealth stuff, but I just, like, everything with that whole underground conflict, like, for a premiere, like, it just didn't... Like, I just was kind of confused, like, that was the thing that they chose to focus on for the premiere. Like, I just felt like there could have been something else that they did. Now, and I'm not sure what, because, again, like, you can't have them just jump into the Commonwealth stuff because Eugene is dealing with that. Like, they don't know. So you kind of need filler until the Commonwealth catches up to them. So what's the filler going to be? Looking for supplies, the Reapers... But, like, that's the thing. You can tell this content feels like filler because it's not caught up to the next big thing that we know is big in the Commonwealth. And we are already getting scenes side by side juxtaposed, which gives us our tonal shift, as I mentioned. And we already have those scenes. So we're already seeing the future of, like, what's going to come next. Like, we know the Commonwealth is going to be the 100% focus as, like, once these freaking Reapers are dealt with, whenever they are, the Commonwealth is going to be the focus. I don't know who the villain will be. I don't know if it's just going to be Pamela Milton being kind of a tyrant. I'm not sure what they're going to, how they're going to deal with all of that. But I just got, like, as it was, again, it was sequenced well. Like, you kind of had this spooky horror vibe, and the Walking Dead should be that. I think that was why the Commonwealth arc was so confusing, because it was like this pristine old world society that just didn't have any walkers, and so it was like, is this still the Walking Dead? So the decision, Kirkman's decision to make the Commonwealth for the comics, in and of itself was an odd decision. But, you know, obviously it's being adapted because it's the last arc of the comics. But again, like, we know that's that final destination. That's like that new, it's the new tantalizing thing that I want to know more about. But, you know, there's a lot of the filler content that's going on with, you know, a lot of the Walker stuff in the tunnels and all that stuff. And it's just like, all right, like, it was fine when we were doing this to finish out the Whisper conflict. But, like, you know, now they're dead, and I just feel like these Reapers are just these villains that were... Again, I get it that they followed Maggie from her old home, but they kind of feel shoehorned in. Just a little. You know, they aren't from the comics. I know they're a creation made for the show, but I'm not as much... Maybe something will happen where I'll be a fan. Again, episode 3 will open with some action because, you know, they're being attacked by the Reapers in the freaking finale at the end of episode 2. So there's going to be a fight. So... yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the direction is. Like, I don't feel like there's not the same type of build-up and anticipation and mystery and intrigue as there was with the Whispers. Was a total, I mean, that scene in the you want to talk about spooky. That's the thing, though. Like, we already did some of this stuff, if you think about it. Like, that spooky scene in the graveyard with Aaron and Jesus, where that Walker dodges and he gets stabbed. Like, that was one of the biggest holy shit moments of the freaking series. Other than the, you know, maybe Negan bashed the, you know, the one we didn't know who was getting their head smashed in. So, I don't know. Like, again, I'm not trying to be too rough on the episode, but I just feel like a lot of the horror vibes they were trying to do, we've seen before, and we already have a lot of scenes of, like, the future of the show. With the whole Commonwealth thing. And so I feel like I'm watching 2 different shows at the same time, and it's just it's just odd to me. Like, I just want, like, I find myself saying, all right, let's go, like, come on, like, carry on, like, yes, kill the Reapers, get food, build up the walls. Like, it's just all such mundane stuff. Like, again, now that I've seen the bonus episodes, I feel like it's all just little petty stuff. Like, okay, we're going to just build up the walls again because they got broken by the Whispers and we got to get food. Like they're just meandering with a lot of the same, like, little things while there's bigger stuff going on with Eugene's group in the Commonwealth, and like now I'm glued, like now I just want to see like what's the Commonwealth like, what's their society like, you know, when do we meet Pamela Milton and Lance Hornsby, when do we meet Sebastian, like when do we meet Yumiko's brother, what's the dynamic between Stephanie and Eugene gonna be like there's all these questions I have that have nothing to do with like the main things that are going on with Alexandria. So I don't know. I could be in the minority, but I think I realize this is bothering me more than I realized when I kind of went off. But that's the premiere. Again, like it felt a little bit like a filler episode. I don't know if you guys agree, but that's just my assessment. So take it with a grain of salt. I will have these more consistently after the episodes air. I'm gonna be a week ahead technically because I'm reviewing an episode that already came out too. So I will, I guess, be a week ahead. So just realize that, I guess. So yeah. Anyway, appreciate you guys watching. I hope you're still interested in the content. I know I've been gone for like 3 weeks, but I will finish out season 11 of The Walking Dead, and then see what I want to do from there, if I want to do something from there. So, all right. Thanks, guys. Peace out.